know what Graham Linehan's up to, but Graham Linehan, who wrote Father Ted and the IC Crowd, and what was that show? Hippies? I think it was called Hippies. Big Train. You know, Graham Linehan, OG. Has been caught up in this war between different factions of feminism, and this is what I'm saying. Like, there are so many aspects and so many of these niche communities where, you know, communities are supposed to represent certain groups' interests who have just all become fractured. You know what I mean? Like, it's just without going into all the other ones, but this is a good example of, like, it's either a divide and conquers type situation, or it's just a nonsense situation. Oh, it's probably a mixture of all of it. Somehow Graham Linehan's involved, and Graham Linehan was saying comments about someone, some trans feminist, and then I think actually had, you know, the authorities called on him, so he's caught up in that kind of bullshit. It's just crazy. It's just funny. Like, and so he is, what I understand, is a TERF, which is a trans exclusionary radical feminist, and he is a man that just says, you know, I just think feminism is for women. You know, and he's got a valid point, because, like, how, you know, I mean, and the way I look at it now, because I do have, you know, I've got opinions on, like, what is considered to be a woman and what are the different ins and outs, and it's like, I always think, if you're going to be trans, then you're trans. You're just a different kind of thing, and that's fine. You know, why do you want to be hanging out with all these losers? You know what I'm saying? Or, like, you know, have your own crew. Like, be different. But I guess it all boils down to just the problem is with all of this kind of division, when you have trans exclusionary radical feminists, whatever the fuck that is, and other feminists, I couldn't the problem is that they're all fighting to become a protected class, whereas, like, to have special protections, whereas we should just have equality across the board is what we should have. So it becomes way too important for these groups to be included in the, you know, for these people to be included in certain groups. And I remember, you know, if you look back way back in the 90s, when in America, when they pushed forward the bill for it was like a bill of rights for homosexuals, and a lot of old school black leaders, you know, who were there fighting for civil rights back in the 60s, were outraged by it, absolutely outraged. You can go look it up, and they were totally protesting against it. I mean, they'd be set on fire if they tried to do that now, but literally probably burnt. They'd bring back lynching. They'd go, no, they're white supremacists. They'd burn black community leaders for being white supremacists, probably. That's kind of how it is nowadays, isn't it? Interesting. But in seriousness, you know, and their point was, because now they're going to have a protected, you know, have same protections and rights that we're going to have. It's like, what are these and then you got to think, going, no, we want the same protections and rights. And it's like, right, so what are these special protections and rights for being part of, you know, a minority? And that's something that causes division amongst people. Now, obviously, through history, there are things that have happened. You know, there's been discrimination, and certain groups have needed protections. There's a reason why, you know, you have the black lawyer association. I can't remember what it's called in this country. You know, it's got a better name than what I just came with. But, you know, it was a collection of black lawyers because there weren't many black lawyers, and there was discrimination. Like, there's always going to be discrimination of some sort somewhere. And hopefully, we're probably going to reach a point where all discrimination is like going to be peered out like that, going, oh, you know, because it's like there's so many different types of discrimination. Some you wouldn't even think about without going crazy and saying we must abolish all. It's like, just think about all the prejudices and shit we have in our brains. I mean, come on. Right, I'm going off topic here, but the point is that I think the whole thing about making a protected class and having these protections now shouldn't even be a thing. It should just be equality across the board, isn't it? Like, as in equality, not fucking equity. You know, not equality of outcome, just equality of opportunity, as should be. And bigotry and sexism is just bigotry and sexism. There is no special kind of bigotry, no special kind of sexism. There are levels of it, obviously, but that's why we have the law that determines what levels. You know, if it's racially aggravated assault, or is it racial battery, or racial murder, or racial, you know, whatever it is, there's different levels. But this whole protected class thing is just becoming a thing. You can see why it's like, it's a road to ruin, because it pisses off one group of people, then another group of people want what they got, and then they say, no, you shouldn't have what we have. It's like, going, do you know what, let's just fucking scrap the whole thing, because like, I think we've reached a level already, like, where we were doing pretty fucking well, and I don't know why they just wanted to tear it all down. Like, we were going up like this, and now suddenly we're going bloop, just down again. Like, let's just halt progress and punch it in the face is what's happened. And it's just funny that Graham Linehan would be caught up in as a high-profile figure on the path, on the side of evil. Now, I've seen people try to protest these kind of groups. So this is something he shared, and it's on something called Unherd. Do you get what they did? Unherd, UNH, as in her. Unherd, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know nothing about Unherd. I have no idea about it. I know Graham Linehan, and I know he doesn't like transsexuals becoming feminists or women. I don't know, or think they're just the same rights. He's not into it. He wrote Father Ted though, so he's alright. So I just thought, well, let's see what he was. Because we know what we hear a hell of a lot about. Because these voices are being stifled out. There's not popular, especially amongst the Twitter folks and wherever. It's not a popular opinion that they have that trans women shouldn't be part of their group. Because obviously, as soon as you say, no, you're not allowed in here, then it's discrimination. But my point has always been, sometimes, we discriminate in a lot of different ways, and there's positive discrimination. And that sounds weird, but there is, like, just the word discrimination. It doesn't always, it's like we discriminate against pedophiles being in the little boys' paddling pool. That's, this, it's fine. But anyway, so yeah. But as soon as you say one group shouldn't be allowed in, it's like it becomes problematic. So let's see what they got to say, because Graham Linehan really liked this article. So let's give it a whirl. My first ever volunteer post was back in 1980 at a women's aid refuge for victims of domestic violence. Well, what a way to bring the part. I mean, God, I thought we were gonna have a right laugh at this, but this is really serious. I will never forget the sight of those women coming in through the doors, crying with desperate relief, having escaped their abusive husbands, finding comfort in the company of other women who had experienced the same. I think I know where she's going with this article. That safe environment where women could flee and open up about their abuse without feeling frightened or belittled saved many lives. The need for such services was recognized and acted upon by feminist movement back in the 60s, at a time when the state did not recognize domestic violence or rape in a marriage as a crime. Yes, motherfuckers, that is the thing. And you see there you go. So look at this. Look at the struggles. Look at the struggles of like the first wave of feminism. What it went against. Well, not for just women. I mean, like in certain circumstances. Like look at that as a thing, right? And think about what modern sort of day feminists and what a trans person, and think honestly, like what sort of struggles have they gone through in comparison with where that sort of movement started. So what sort of protections should they have, in terms of the bigger picture? Look at the places where it's coming from. Look at what she's saying. It's okay, we're just here to observe, because like I said, this TERF versus feminist thing is like, it's kind of like Israel and Palestine. It's like, do you know what, I don't know enough, I'm just gonna let you fight it out if it's okay with me. I don't care enough to get involved. can you just fight it out? You know, it's like it's just one very small region of the world. You know, there's lots of other places where similar stuff is going on. Let's just look and go, ooh, naughty. Right, so, but having provided necessary sanctuary for more than 5 decades, their continued existence is now in doubt, under attack from all sides. The right slashes their funding. The left, swept along by misogynistic transgender ideology, shots fired, is moving to deny the safety and succor, I don't know that word, of sex segregated services to women traumatized by male violence. It is welcoming transgender women, natal men in their rapist crisis centers and domestic violence shelters. It's not a stretch to see why traumatized females abused by men wouldn't want to share their safe space with male genitalia. I mean, that's a bit hyperbolic. It's like the word safe space is ridiculed now. So use a different word, because they've ruined it for you. I'm sorry, they ruined it for you. And also, the male genitalia, I don't think with their male genitalia, what, they're just fucking waving it around. And they come and going, hey, I'm a girl too, look at my dick. Like, what are they doing in there? It's very bizarre. But on the other hand, yes. I mean, in all seriousness, like, if you've, but then again, I'm always like, well, why, not all men are like rapists, and so it's like, oh, we can't have any men around. Like, it's like, all right, I get it, but it's a safe space for women. It's like, but if someone's so traumatized that they can't have men around, it's like all men. It's like, yo, I think transsexuals is the least of their worries. I think they need deep psychological evaluation if they're going to be feeling that way. But on the other hand, but then again, look, they want to be in this safe space. They don't want dudes around. And let's be quite honest. If someone walking in with a frame of a dude with a penis, all right, I'm Gertie. Like, come on, like, it's still sorry, but like, I can see why they would have a problem with it. And then what? You're gonna victim blame. You're gonna go, oh no, how dare you be afraid of this woman this is a woman, but it was a man, but you don't want any proper men. Sorry to use the word proper men, but it's the only way we're gonna have to navigate through this scenario without saying too much. And I'm already saying too much. Well, you don't want, proper men here, but here's this transsexual woman, well, what you got a problem is it's a woman. What you're saying? Oh, it's a man. All right, well then you, Miss Rape Victim, you are a bigot, and you need to get out. There's no place for you here. Like, whoa, chill out. But then on the other hand is like, see where this, even just talking about it now and going, oh, this, about excluding it and this, but you're so true. And it's like, even just talking about it now, it's like going, oh, God. Oh, God. What a headache. What an unnecessary headache. But yeah. So under the UK Equality Act, it is perfectly lawful to provide discrete services for men and women if this is a better or more effective way of providing the said service. You'd think this would very much apply to rape refuge centres, but the bullying and harassment from trans activists towards politicians, funders, sponsors and patrons has frightened them into opening their doors to transgender women. The law that is supposed to be protecting women is left hanging by a thread. Now, I have seen people go after, and you probably have, people go after so-called TERFs, if that's the word to use for them. Yeah, they have. Very organised, like banning them from having meetings, and there's a lot of it about there's been a lot of that about, and it's like, what's going on? And see, most people wouldn't, most regular Joes wouldn't know about this, like, but there's There's this weird civil war within feminism. Like the left side of the political spectrum, if you like. Because I don't think being a feminist is there a left wing thing? Being a feminist isn't. I fuck knows anymore. I guess it is genuinely these days. I mean, it's literally eating itself. Like it's just eating itself and eating everyone else around it. You know what I mean? It's trying to devour everyone else and each other. It's like a fucking virus. It's mental. You know, look at this lot. It's like, it's like, all right, and why trans and what are more transgenders? I don't get it. How many transgenders are being abused, really, and raped? And who's abusing and raping them? Like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, what's going on. I mean, is there that many of them that is a problem? Or is there that many of them, or can't they have their own shelter? Or is there not enough of them to have their own shelter? I'm just like, Anyway, this is not actually new problem, or bad grammar there. It may be a new front in the transgender TERF wars in the UK. I see, it's a TERF war, and it has one side are called TERFs with an E. This is fantastic, isn't it? But Vancouver Rape Relief, a women's support. I know I'm making like lots of little jokes in here, and there's a lot of serious shit going on, but you have to look at this with a certain perspective of like what, because half the time I just can't work out what. There's just no solution, so I'm bemused. So the Vancouver Rape Relief, a women's support and campaigning NGO in Canada, has been victimized by transgender activists since the mid-1990s. Old school. Now, after their long struggle, this small grassroots volunteer-led organisation is under threat of losing its funding. I first heard of VRR in December 2003 when I saw a news report about a long-running legal battle that the organisation had with a transgender person, Kimberly Nixon. Let's not mention whoever that is. In 1995, Nixon, a former airline pilot who had lived as a man until the age of 33, like Jesus, applied to VRR to train as a counsellor for women who had experienced sexual violence. Nixon was rejected because, since she had not the experience of growing up as a girl, she would not understand the impact of male violence and misogyny on the lives of women who sought support from VRR. The very next day, Nixon filed a formal human rights complaint supported by the British Columbia Human Rights Tribunal, claiming that she had been discriminated against for being transgender. Jesus Christ. You got some balls, haven't you? What? That's ridiculous. Now, come on, that's fucking mental. Like, come on. Where's the people thinking? Right, that's mental. Of course, you haven't got enough experience to deal with. Like, it's like, imagine being a drugs counsellor, just smoking a bit of weed for 6 months. Oh, I'm an absolute pothead now. Oh, yes. What's this? You've been on the heroin? Well, it's your own bloody fault. Well, I should know. I smoked a pot stick once a week for 6 months. I know your struggle completely. It's like, I've been a Holocaust. Imagine if you counselling people, I don't know, Holocaust survivors. I'm trying to think of a funny scenario. Imagine counselling Holocaust survivors, and you fucking, I don't know, you. No, I can't think of anything. Yeah. You just converted to Judas. No, that doesn't work. I'll think of another one. Like, well, no, that's the best one I can think of. It is ridiculous, yeah. Like, just the balls in it going, yes, well, I'm going to... I've been a woman for fucking 5 minutes. I'm not going to counsel women. It would be very bizarre just to sit there going, how long have you been a woman for? Well, all my life, really, but I grew up as a man until I was 33. I was a pilot with a very big penis. But now I'm a lady, and I know exactly what you're going through. You're like, Excuse me. If it was the other way around, it'd be just as mental. Like going, young boys. Oh, I know. I know the internal rage of the adolescent male. Do you? So that's a bit mental, isn't it? VRR tried everything humanly possible to prevent this complaint ending up in a lengthy legal battle. The organisation exists on a shoestring, and the last thing they needed was litigation. VRR offered a formal written apology and suggested that Nixon could support the rape crisis line and shelter work by joining a fundraising committee. They also offered to apologise directly to Nixon and was offering $500 in acknowledgement of hurt feelings and requested mediation. Nixon rejected the offers and pursued the group through various stressful and expensive legal proceedings until it was finally resolved in 2007. In 2009, the Supreme Court awarded VIR costs, but Nixon was not, to this day, paid a cent. After reading 2003 Supreme Court ruling that VIR had not discriminated against Nixon, Jesus Christ, it went on for that long, and did have the right to organise as women only. I wrote what has become an infamous column in The Guardian. I argued that Nixon, who was raised male, was arrogant to assume that she would be suitable to counsel women who had chosen to access services that offers support from women who have suffered similar experiences. The trans extremists came after me big style ever since I have been classed as top TERF. Hey, TERF number one, and bullied, harangued, threatened, picketed, disinvited from university events, attacked on stage when speaking on violence against women. That's just hilarious, isn't it? Like, you're on stage speaking about violence against women and get attacked. I'll show you! Jesus Christ, that's mad, isn't it? I've been called a bigot, a Nazi, and accused of being responsible for the deaths and attacks upon transgender people. Well, this is just the standard thing that they call anyone whose opinion they don't like, isn't it, really? I mean, who are they? Nutters. This is their knee-jerk response whenever anyone points out the bold reality that because trans women are not natal women, they require separate services when they suffer abuse and violence. Yeah. Every year, VRR helps 1,200 women escaping male violence and provides shelter for 120 women and their children. It is the oldest and most celebrated organisation of its kind in the country. It does vital and invaluable work in educating the general public about sexual assault and other atrocities. Well, good for them. But the woke brigade pursues it because the workers and volunteers, mainly women who have survived all manner of male violence themselves, have stuck to their principles and refused to shift from a women-only service to a generic everyone welcome one. As a result, last week the city of Vancouver decided that it would withdraw its annual grant to VRR unless it caves in and accepts trans women as clients, staff members and volunteers. The centre is already being boycotted by the BC Federation of Labour for pretty much the same reason. In this concerted effort to harm the group and remove support for the women who rely on its vital service, the transgender ideologues are behaving just like the misogynistic men's rights movement. What's this men's rights movement? There you go. It's just in a stance riddled with contradictions, men's rights activists in the US lay blame for their own oppression at the door of feminism. Open democracy. When was this? It's 2014. I don't know anything about men's rights movement, but why can't men have a men's rights movement? Maybe you are a bigot. I mean, yeah, that's pretty savage. It's pretty savage that they'd get shut down. Just start your own organisation if you don't like another one, innit? Like, just get funding for it. You get funding. I spoke to one CEO of a sexual violence service in the UK, which is also being told its funding is at risk unless it opens its doors to trans women. She asked not to be named for fear of being targeted. Would Rachel Dolezal be welcomed into a Black Lives Matter group? She asked. Of course not. Well, she would, because there's mainly white people in them groups, isn't it? No, she missed a trick there. Would Rachel Dolezal be welcome into the NAACP? Oh, she was. Oh, bugger. Wasn't she? I don't know. The 4%ers. No, the 5%ers. 5%ers. It's like kind of a Islamic thing for black people in Europe. I know Lord Jamar from... What group was Lord Jamar? Brand Nubian. Jesus Christ. Lord Jamar is a 5%er, which basically means like the black man is God or black man is king. It's pretty much, I think you have to be black to be in the 5%ers. Whereas the Nation of Islam, do you have to be black to be in the Nation of Islam? Is it specifically for blacks? I know it was, but is it still? Was it? Is it? That'd be funny. Anyway, yeah, I get what she's saying. It's quite funny. But Black Lives Matter group, yes, you would. I don't think you're very familiar with the Black Lives Matter movement, but yeah, you see, missed out on a trick there. I don't know, accepted as Nubian King of Africa. But it is true. It's kind of true. Because you may laugh, but we might get to that stage when Rachel Dolezal was ahead of her fucking time. I'm telling you, it could get that fucking crazy in it. Where they go, oh, Rachel Dolezal, well, yes, of course she was black. It could, I wouldn't be surprised. So, I mean, there's a little insight into the TERF war. I mean, I think it's bad that they would have funding taken away if they wouldn't allow. And it's very bad that it's a rape, especially if it's a rape crisis center, and they're like, look, we think it's in the best interest of these rape victims not to have like fuck I say unnatural women around. Like, fuck it. I mean, Jesus Christ, what are we supposed to just lie about stuff now for fear? I don't give a fuck. Like, you know, yeah, they got a point. But then you look at the other side and it's like, well, what is, do you know what, who cares? Let's leave them. Let's just leave them to kill each other. But it is bad that rape centers would have money pulled where they, you know, just because they don't want, you know. So who are these? Are they for or against?